Yeah, I'm talking to this one. 1, 2. Order. Chap 1, 2.
Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. 1, 2. Obi. Oh, Odoli. Yes, sir.
Just 30 seconds before, don't scaboo anything. Even like it other. I think I'll come out.
1, 2. 1, 2. One, two. Testing. 1, 2.
This one. Testing 1, 2. Can you hear? Yeah. Are you a hybrid? Oh, no, don't worry. They'll pump the volume up later. Okay.
Yeah, check 1, 2, checking 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. How's that? Tumelo? Tumelo, is that okay? 1, 2. Let me know if it's okay. 1,
Okay.
2, 3,
Sound
4.
check 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Sound check 1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. It's all good.
Sound check 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. Sound check 1, 2.
Thank you.
Sound check 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing sound check 1, 2, 1, 2.
Thank you, Tumelo.
Sound check 1 2 1 2. Testing sound check 1 2.
Check.
2. 1, 2. Madam Speaker,
we may now have the moment for silent prayer and meditation. We may be seated. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, before we proceed with today's proceedings, I wish to announce that the President has informed me that he has appointed the Deputy President as leader of government business in the National Assembly in terms of Section 91, subsection 4 of our Constitution. Lastly, Dr. G. W. Korenov, honorable member, has, in terms of Rule 34, been designated Parliamentary Councillor to the President. Ms. T. Siweya, honorable member, has Parliamentary Councillor to the Deputy President. Congratulations to the honorable members, and hope that they will attend the programming committee so that they create a link between the legislature and the executive, particularly when it comes to programming. The first item on our order paper is a motion in the name of Chief Whip of the Majority Party. The Honorable the Chief Whip. There should be a roving mic.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Good morning to you, Madam Speaker, and all honorable members. Madam Speaker, the first motion that I move that the House, noting the pending appointment of the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence, upon the finalization of all legal prescripts, establishes an ad hoc committee to allow members of the National Assembly to be briefed prior to the debate on Vote 8, National Treasury, State Security, including crime intelligence, and defense intelligence. The committee to be consists of 11 members who should be as follows: the African National Congress with 4 members, the DA with 2 members, MK with 2 members, EFF with 1 member, and other parties with 2 members. B, conduct its proceedings in closed sessions in terms of Rule 184, subsection 1B, Roman figure 3, and members to conduct their functions in a manner consistent with the protection of the national security. C, exercise those powers in Rule 167 it may deem necessary for the performance of its tasks. And D, cease to exist upon the completion of the debate on Vote 8, National Treasury, State Security, including crime intelligence and the defense intelligence. So I move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections to the motion? I do not see any. Therefore, the objection Not being noted, we have now agreed to the motion. We now move on second motion on the order paper in the name of the Chief Whip.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House, in terms of Rule 222, elects the following members as House Chairpersons. Mr. C.T. Frolick, B. Mr. W. Horn, C. Ms. Z. Majosi. Thank you.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections? Honorable Shibambo, are you objecting?
Yes, sir. Honorable Speaker, you must note the objection of the economic freedom fighters. We're not dividing the House, but let's note the objection of the economic freedom fighters on the proposed names for the House Chairpersons.
Objection noted, and therefore the motion has been agreed to. We now move to the third item on the agenda. Again, the motion in the name of the Chief Whip.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House notes 1, the resolution of the House on the 2nd of July 2024, electing the following 4 members of the National Assembly. A, Mr. M. Dooley of the ANC. B, Mr. M. Chetty of the DA. C, Ms. D. Zuma Sambudla of MK. D, Mr. V. Pambo of EFF, to represent Parliament in the Pan-African Parliament in terms of Article 4.2.3 of the Protocol of the Treaty establishing the African Economic relating to the Pan-African Parliament. And 2, resolves to elect Ms. R.M. Mtweni Tsipane, the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, as the 5th member to represent Parliament at the Pan-African Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You will note that that's the addition to the names of members that were accepted last week, but as you know, it has to include the member of the NCOP, and that's what has been put as an inclusion. I now put the motion. Any objections? No objections agreed to. I now put the motion on the name of the Chief Whip.
Madam Speaker, on the 4th motion, I move that the House elects the following members to represent Parliament in the South African Development Community Parliamentary Forum in terms of Article 7, subsection 2 of the Constitution of the Forum. A is Ms. A.T. Didiza, the Speaker of the National Assembly. B is Ms. S.E. Lucas of the ANC. C is Mr. K.M. Moimang, the ANC from NCOP. D is Ms. B.S. Matigizela, DA. E is Mr. D.M. Skosana of MK. And F would be Ms. N.V. Mente Nkuna of the EFF. Thanks.
Thank you. Honorable Matigizela, I noted there was a mistake referred to as Miss. You are Mr. I now put the motion. Are there any objections? No objections agreed to. I now put the 5th order in the name of the Chief Whip.
Madam Speaker, I move that the House designates the following members to the Judicial Service Commission in terms of Section 178, subsection 1H of the Constitution of the Republic of 1996. A is Mr. M.S. Likhanyane of the African National Congress. B is Ms. F. Hassan of the ANC. C is Advocate G. Bredenbach of the DA. D is Dr. M.J. Hlophe of MK. E is Mr. J.S. Malema of EFF. F is Mr. R.A.P. Trolip of Action SA. So I move.
I now put the motion. Are there any objections? I've noted the DA.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The DA objects, and we wish to do a declaration in terms of Rule 108.
An objection having been noted and request for declaration requested, I will now ask the parties in the following order to make their declarations. The DA. The time for declaration, honourable members, is 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we expect to receive a lot of criticism when it comes to the vote because of our decision to force a vote on this matter, given the long-standing practice that when a position is allocated to a party for representation on other forums, it is taken as the prerogative of that party.
Excuse me, order, honourable members, I'm sorry. The time for your declaration, as it has been agreed to before in the Rules Committee, the 5 minutes.
Continue?
5 minutes, you can continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Given the long-standing practice that when a position is allocated to a party for representation on other forums, it is taken as the prerogative of that party to decide who will represent the National Assembly. We also expect the argument to be made that for as long as an individual is deemed to be fit and proper to serve the National Assembly, you are consequently fit and proper to represent the National Assembly on other forums. However, in the current context, there are 2 reasons why this process should not continue today. The first is that it is a matter of public record that Dr. Hlophe lost the status as a judge of the High Court of South Africa as a consequence of a finding of gross misconduct by the Judicial Services Commission. The decision to be taken today is furthermore not merely a political decision, but the exercise of a public power aimed at contributing to the establishment of the very same Judicial Services Commission. In the circumstances, it's a legal requirement of the National Assembly to act in a reasonable and rational manner. We are strongly of the view that it is neither reasonable nor rational to elect Dr. Hlophe as a representative of the National Assembly on the Judicial Services Commission. The second reason why Parliament should not elect Dr. Hlophe is to be found on the grounds I've just mentioned, if you listened, Honourable Member. The second reason why Parliament should not elect Dr. Hlophe is to be found in the constitutional obligation which we as members of the National Assembly enjoy to assist and protect the judiciary in order to ensure its independence, its impartiality, its dignity and its effectiveness. Madam Speaker, even if the majority today holds the view that any person who is fit and proper to be a member of Parliament is fit and proper to be a member of the JSC, it must follow that a large number of applicants to be interviewed by the Judicial Services Commission going forward will object and apply for the recusal of Dr. Hlophe. On the basis, the finding of gross misconduct renders him unfit to serve on a body that is determined to fitness, that is to determine the fitness and the propriety of others. Madam Speaker, this poses the risk of paralyzing the JSC and tying it up in endless review processes. If we are to assist and support the judiciary, Madam Speaker, we must today refrain from exposing the Judicial Services Commission to this risk. The DA cannot vote to put Dr. John Hlophe on the JSC. Thank you.
Order, honorable members. The MK Party, 4 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. The provisions of Section 1781 of the Constitution 1996 set out the composition of the Judicial Services Commission, JSE. Apart from the Chief Justice, the President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, the JSC, also consists of 6 persons designated by the National Assembly from among its members, at least 3 of whom must be members of opposition parties represented in the Assembly in terms of Section 1781H of the Constitution. The Constitution does not contain an inherent qualification requirement for members to sit on the JSC. Since members who qualify to be appointed to the JSC are already members of Parliament and therefore bound by their oath of office, the Constitution in its wisdom does not regulate the qualification of members to sit in the JSC. The existing Constitution scholarship on the makeup of the JSC endorses the appointment of politicians to the JSC. According to Professor Pierre DeVos, judges are not elected. The involvement of politicians in the JSC provides a semblance of credibility to the JSC process, especially because politicians are deemed to enjoy the mandate of the electorate. The further point to be made relates to the powers of the judiciary, which include invalidating legislation and adjudicating serious matters of national public importance. Importantly, politicians are involved in the JSC so that they amplify the voice of the poor, the electorate. Therefore, the legal qualification and judicial experience of members such as Dr. Hlophe are a shoe fit for a body such as the JSC. It is also important to highlight that the numerical and proportional strength of parties such as the MKP and the resultant privileges accruing from that are constitutionally protected. The attempt to erode the will of the people by dictating to the MKP which of its preferred candidates are to be designated to the JSC is constitutionally repulsive. More importantly, the rules of the National Assembly do not prescribe the minimum requirement for the delegation or appointment of members to any of its forums such as the JSE. The MKP has done huge justice to the House to bring into the lawmaking House a Cambridge graduate, PhD graduate with law, a Cambridge graduate, PhD graduate from Cambridge with law degree to come into the House and assist the House to make the laws of this country. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. EFF, 4 minutes.
No, thank you very much, Speaker of the National Assembly. We, as the economic freedom fighters, fully support the appointment of Dr. Mandlakaise John Hlophe as a representative of South Africa's 7th Parliament in the Judicial Services Commission. As a matter of principle is that anyone who is eligible to become a member of Parliament as per Section 47 of the Constitution can be delegated to whatever responsibility that all members of Parliament are eligible for. And that is the principle that we had sustained. There are so many less than capable members of the Democratic Alliance, some of which are serving in the executive now. who do not have any form of qualification or direction. We have not yet exposed their incapacity because they're eligible to be appointed even as executives. Some of them are even deputized by people who are more qualified than them. It's just a group of white illiterates, semi-illiterates that are presiding over government because a certain section of society has given you that responsibility. We respect that. So let's respect the fact that a certain number of people in South Africa have voted for Mkhonto as a party and have designated Dr. Hlophe to become a member of parliament. So let's respect that. It's a matter of protocol, which we have always protected in the Chief Whips Forum, that whoever is designated by a political party must be respected. So we wish you well, Dr. Hlophe, in the Judicial Services Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The IFP. Order, honorable members. The IFP.
Honorable Speaker, the Judicial Services Commission plays a key role in the appointment of judges as per the constitutional mandate. It is incumbent upon the members of Parliament appointed to the JSC to always be guided by the principle of fairness, integrity, and above all, a commitment to the rule of law. Elected members of Parliament choosing to represent us on this prestigious body bear a profound responsibility. They are not merely representatives of their respective parties, but are ambassadors of this Parliament, and by extension, the people of South Africa. Their actions, decisions, and demeanor within the Judicial Service Commission must transcend individual or party political ambitions. They must embody the collective will and aspirations of our diverse society. This emphasis on the rule of law as their guiding principle is not just a matter of ethical importance, but of national significance. The integrity of our judiciary, its independence, and its ability to function without fear, favor, or prejudice is contingent upon our appointees holding these values as the core of their service. May this House reaffirm its pledge to uphold the sanctity of our judiciary by ensuring our representatives on the Judicial Service Commission act not as members of their political parties, but as guardians of our Constitution and as stewards of justice and the rule of South Africans. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Patriotic Alliance. Patriotic Alliance, order. FF plus. Order, honorable members.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Speaker, it is true that the Constitution does not dictate and prescribe who a party may appoint to the JSC. But it is also true that we should be rational. It is also true that what the Honourable Shivambu said and what the Honourable Member from the NCOP said, that they did bring us a highly qualified person in the form of Dr. Hlophe. But what they do not mention is that Dr. Hlophe is also the first judge to have been removed from office. And that cannot be ignored. That cannot be ignored. And then we should be rational. Then we should protect the integrity of the judicial. Then we should protect the integrity of the judicial system. Then we should protect the separation of powers. And we should be rational with the conflict of apparent interest that there will be in the appointment of Dr. Hlophe in that position. We cannot support that, and there is a void in the Constitution with regards to this, and this should be addressed. A member cannot be impeached by this House and then be fit and proper to serve in this House. I thank you.
Order, honourable members. Action SA.
Thank you, Speaker. Good morning to honourable members. We as Action SA believe that the parliamentary representation that serves on the JSC should, though we are all nominated by our respected parties, represent the people of South Africa who have spoken loud and clear in these elections. This means that we should ensure that the very best legal minds are considered on their respective merits to be appointed to the judiciary. This obviously also requires that such candidates are suitably qualified and that they are beyond reproach in order to fulfill this very important responsibility. So this House should call on Parliament to consider the importance of this committee and its work and do the right thing by electing candidates that are fit for purpose. So we move. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. UDM. Sorry, ACDP.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the judiciary is a crucial part of our constitutional democracy due to the extensive powers the Constitution vests in our judges, which also guarantees its independence. And this makes issues of how judges are appointed critical to the strength of our constitutional democracy. In this seventh administration, the process of appointing a new Chief Justice and a Deputy President of the Supreme Court of Appeal, which began before the elections, will need to be finalized. This is in addition to other appointments. And as we know, the JSC plays a central role in this process. Now, the JSC itself has been the subject of much criticism from various judgments and civil society. It even had to rerun interviews. So we in the 7th Parliament have the opportunity to strengthen this key institution and address the shortcomings that exist by ensuring that its members are at the very least committed to the rule of law and the constitutional democracy. While Dr. Hlophe is highly qualified, and I know him personally, whilst there is no legal impediment to today's nominations constitutionally, as far as the ACDP is concerned, the prospect of a nominee who was removed from judicial office for gross misconduct, sitting on the very body that made that finding, is, in our view, plainly wrong. Those serving on the JSC to appoint and discipline judges must themselves be above reproach to ensure the legitimacy of the judiciary, not only in our eyes, but in the eyes of the public, given, as the Honourable Member from the MK himself said, that judges are not elected in South Africa. And the ACDP cannot in good conscience support today's nominations, as those nominated will represent us and be our voice in the JSC. Clearly, however, and I say this with the greatest respect to the Honourable John Hlophe, that the legal lacuna that exists needs to be addressed, either by a constitutional or other legislative amendment, to address this legal issue, this legal lacuna, which, in our view, it is ethically obvious. It is Ethics 101. I thank you.
Thank you. UDM. UDM. Order, Honourable Deputy Minister, not gestures. Go to the podium.
Madam Speaker and honourable members, Judge Hlophe, kukhona i-dissertation paper wayibhalile ethetha nge-legitimate expectation and isetyenzisiwe to many courts. Kukho i-legitimate expectation yabantu abavotele ipati yakhe. Ndoba uba ngaba ungene ngokusemthethweni apha, makazixhamle zonke ii-privileges zale house. Enkosi.
Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, rise. Rise, Mzansi. You covered? Okay. Bosa.
Honorable members, fellow South Africans, Speaker, this is a moment in our nation when we all went out to the electorate and campaigned, asking for who gets to represent the South Africans in this House. The Sixth Administration did a duty and a function. I have engaged, and certainly this is not a decision about Judge Hlophe. This is a decision about how exactly this House represents itself. I have absolute respect for Judge Hlophe. I respect his qualifications. I respect the fact that the party he represents saw it fit for him to serve in the Portfolio Committee. Equally so, I think this House would do well for itself to be able to establish whether the rules are sufficient enough that should a member be impeached from a particular Portfolio Committee, that same member can then proceed to go serve in the same Portfolio Committee in that sense. And therefore, respectfully, in terms of serving in the Judicial Services Commission, I respect that, Honourable Sir. So therefore, I hold the view that as Build One South Africa, we stood up and we said we want a particular level of leadership and we need to be able to endorse that view. Therefore, it would not for us, given the fact that the rules allow still for Judge Hlophe to be elected, that should just be automatic. Therefore, we cannot support the decision. Thank you very much.
Other honorable members, ATM.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I think we need to remind this House that any member of Parliament can represent Parliament in any committee and in any body. There is nothing that precludes Dr. John Hlophe from representing Parliament. The National Assembly has always followed the principle of allowing parties to decide who gets to represent the party. What we are calling for as the ATM is that the National Assembly today must follow that principle, follow the Constitution, follow also the rules of Parliament. We can't allow, Speaker, a case whereby a party will want to bring subjective opinions on the appointment of Dr. Hlophe, because if we're to follow subjective appointments, there are parties here in Parliament who voted against the abolishment of Parliament, of apartheid. Those parties are here in Parliament enjoying the fruits of democracy. So, as the ATM, we fully support this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Al-Jama.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Speaker, the streets have spoken. They want the Honourable Sheikh Hlophe to serve on that commission. The people shall govern. This is a people's parliament. Al-Jama supports the nomination. And if any judge wants to be a judge and ask the Honourable Hlophe to be recused himself, that person don't deserve to be on the bench. Thank you very much.
Order. Honourable members, NCC. Order. NCC. I'll now move to PAC. NCC, are you there? PAC? UAT?
Okay, thank you, Speaker. Kgotsong Afrika. As UAT, we believe that Judge Hlophe is a representative of our people, and with such suitable qualification, is the best suited for JC role. Judge Hlophe, sesithembele kuwena baba.
Order. Good. Good. I don't see. Good. ANC.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, there are just 2 or 3 issues that we want to raise on this matter. The first one is that it's correct that in a Chief Whip's Forum, we've agreed to work within certain parameters. We've established certain principles. One of those principles is that parties must be permitted to second their own chosen members to specific portfolio committees. That's one of the principles that we've established. It doesn't mean that there would not be a time where we deviate from that if there's a concern emanating from one of the parties who are represented in the WIPAR. The second issue is that we respect the fact that the DA raises a concern and an objection on the issue of Honorable Hlophe for the reasons that they are advancing, which are, of course, on the basis of the argument as presented by the Chief Whip of the Democratic Alliance. But our own view as the ANC, which is a view that has been consistent in all the committees we have said, the Chief Whip's Forum, as well as in the Rules Committee, we have agreed that in instances where the rules of Parliament or the Constitution has not clearly defined a particular position, we are going to have to live on the basis of the established rules and practices of Parliament. And I want to make an example about this matter, which is still a very contentious issue in the Rules Committee that we are discussing. The parties, for instance, have been engaging one another about what we understand as members of the 7th Parliament as the Chief Whip of the majority versus the Chief Whip of the largest party. And we've agreed that until rules are amended, otherwise, we're going to have to stay with the current convention and the rules of the National Assembly. Our view as the ANC is that notwithstanding the concern that has been raised by the DA on the Hlophe matter, we want to suggest that the House should not take a position unless it has clarified its own rules where there's a lacuna or there's a gap on our rules, as well as the Constitution, so that when we take a position, it does not just become a political position, but is a position that is supported by either the Constitution or the rules of the National Assembly. So that is the point that we want to raise, Honourable Speaker, as the African National Congress.
Thank you, honourable members. Order. I do not have any other speakers now. My list is closed. There were parties who were called upon. They did not take their slots, or maybe they are absent in the House. Order. I now put the motion. Are there any objections? The objection of the Democratic Alliance is noted. Therefore, the...
Speaker?
Oh, sorry, yes.
Speaker, please note the objection of the FF+.
FF+, objection has been noted.
Please note the objection of the ACDP. Thank you, Speaker.
Objection of the ACDP is noted. With those objections, the motion is carried. Thank you very much. Order, honorable members. This brings us to the end of our sitting. Members have been advised when the first meetings of their respective portfolio committees is going to sit and the venues where they will sit. And at the appropriate time, members will therefore attend those meetings. I will now ask the Sergeant-at-Arms to lead the procession, and then the House is adjourned. Thank you.